Welcome back to Truck and Talk, the podcast that brings you the people and ideas shaping the road ahead at Mesilla Valley Transportation, where innovation, teamwork, and technology keep us moving forward. I'm Stephanie Valle, and today we're diving into the world of technology, data, and the digital future of trucking with someone who's right at the center of it all, Corey Goux, the Chief Information Officer at MBT. With over 2 decades of experience in IT and logistics, Corey's career has been defined by one core idea: using technology not just to make trucks smarter, but to make people more connected, efficient, and empowered. Corey, welcome to Truck and Talk.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So, before we get into your story, we want to start with something that we call fuel for thought. It's a little quick detour that we like to zoom out and talk about what's shaping the industry right now. So, giving our guests a chance to share their take on big trends moving transportation forward. So, the first question is, there's been a lot of buzz about AI adoption in logistics, especially as companies race to automate routing, maintenance, and even communication. And some see it as a game changer, others worrying about the human element being lost. So, how do you see AI changing day to day operations? And how does MBT approach innovation while keeping people at the heart of it?
Yeah, so innovation is one of our key pillars of our strategy, one of the three pillars. And so we definitely have to look at the people first aspect of that. So you're absolutely right. AI is what all the rage is about right now and what we're talking about. But I think when you look at our people, from a staff perspective, I think AI is already having a significant influence in the trivial tasks that they do on a regular basis. So we've always had automation in place, but AI is giving us the ability to get more sophisticated with that automation, and also the ability to have complexity and overcome that complexity. So that's pretty exciting, and being able to leverage the AI to reduce the number of touches and things like that they're doing. Also on the driver's side, we're able to leverage AI to make our drivers safe, which is of the utmost important, first and foremost, and then also making them more operationally efficient. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that as we go.
Okay, great. So, our second question is a concern about cybersecurity, especially as fleets become more concerned and data driven. So, or more connected, I should say. How do you balance connectivity and efficiency with keeping systems secure? And what do you think the industry still needs to do to truly get ahead of this issue?
Yeah, well, I think definitely the balance is the key word there, right? We live in a overly connected world. I recently got a new stove or a new oven, and it's connected to the internet. It can be connected to the internet. And my first thought was, why on earth do I need my oven connected to the internet? So we are absolutely connected across all avenues of everything that we do. And so simplifying is key there. Do we need to have those connections, and does it make sense? And so we first look at that. I think as far as what the industry needs to do is ensure that security is embedded at every layer that we have within our technology and our applications. So it used to be that you could, if you protected the front door, then and you secured that, then you were good. That's not true anymore. If the bad actors get through the front door, you need to make sure all the other doors are locked as well. So embedding at every layer, and we have a lot of technology on our trucks, and we do a lot of integrations with our customers and other vendors. And so every single one of those touch points needs to think about security at that layer. And I think we still have some work to do there.
So, Corey, you have over 2 decades of experience in IT and logistics. So, what initially drew you to this intersection of technology and transportation?
Yeah, I think I often say transportation chose me. I didn't choose transportation. But when I was in college as a computer science major, I wanted to do an internship and get some experience in the space. And the area geographically that I was looking at had a transportation company, and I heard a lot of good things about their IT department. So I applied, and I was accepted and got the internship and had a great experience there. And at the end of that internship, they offered me a position to come back full time when I completed my degree. So that kind of started my career. And over the last 27 years, I I've attempted to leave, but I somehow always get pulled back, and it's been a great ride. But that's really how I got started.
Okay. So your leadership philosophy is to embrace the unexpected and leverage every challenge. Can you share a story where that mindset shaped a major outcome in your career?
Yeah, so maybe it's the just being a military brat that used to being changed, but I really do embrace change and enjoy it, and think that we should be changing often. But to answer the question, when I was just a brand new leader within the IT organization of a company that I was at, our CIO came to me and said, "Hey, Corey, we have this project that hasn't gone well, and I need you to take it over. I need you to fix it, basically." And at that time, Agile was a new concept on how to deliver software. And I had been studying about it. I was earning a certification in it and looking for an opportunity to try it out. And based on the information I was given about this project, it seemed like a really good fit. And so I told our CIO at the time, I think we need to try this out because there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of unknown, and I think we'll be more successful. So we were able to bring the team together and absolutely say, we don't know exactly where we're at in this process and what the challenges are, but we're going to figure them out. So you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we were able to quickly turn around with just a matter of weeks and months that project and make it very successful, and it had a really good outcome. And so it really changed my perspective on how to adapt and how to make sure you're staying in touch with the business and putting value at the front of everything that we do within our organization, and really shaped the rest of my career off of that philosophy of value first.
And I think what you said about being comfortable with being uncomfortable can apply to anybody in any field
Absolutely.
because change is always happening, right? But especially in IT.
Especially in IT.
Wow. So you've worked at other major carriers before joining MVT. So what was the most valuable lesson that you brought with you into this new role?
Yeah, so it used to be that IT was viewed as a service provider. So if you think about when you go to a restaurant, you place an order and your server comes to you and delivers that order. It used to be the way IT was viewed. That has changed and shifted, and I continue to push for that change in that we're really a valued partner in the organization. And so what I've learned over the years and allowed me to come here and be successful is ensuring that we were aligned to the business. First and foremost, everything we do is to support the business and support their goals and initiatives. And if we're not, then there's really no sense in us being here. So that's been a philosophy of mine. It's embedded and ingrained in our team. And that's how they look at things. First is we have to partner with those business leaders that we support first and foremost.
Hmm. You've mentioned that at MVT, the employees can feel their impact. What part of your role gives you the greatest sense of personal fulfillment?
Yeah, so I think with anybody who creates something, if you think about a carpenter or a sculptor, they have this vision in their mind. And then when they finally get to see it formed and created, it brings a lot of excitement and joy and all of that. So we operate similarly. We have conversations with our business partners, with our leaders. We think about things and we say things like, well, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Or wouldn't it be nice if we have this? And to take it from that point and then eventually see that delivered as a solution brings me a lot of joy and excitement. But even more so in my position when I get to see our team members experience that, that's even more as a leader.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You've said that MVT is more than just a transportation company, and you're kind of alluding to that a lot with your answers already. But from your perspective as the CIO, what does that broader vision mean, and how is technology making it a reality?
Yeah, so a lot of people think about transportation companies as just transporting goods from A to B, right?
Hmm.
We do a lot more than that, and from a simplistic standpoint, we have MBT warehousing, we have dedicated operations, we do drayage, we do logistics, but at a higher level, we are truly a supply chain partner, and I think that's what I would want people to know is that at MBT we can help you meet a majority of your supply chain needs. So technology plays a role at each of those divisions and business units. But one of the keys is not only making sure that we're operationally efficient at each of those, but we integrate between each of those seamlessly. So if you come to us with a solution that is needed, and that solution involves warehousing and transportation, it needs to be as though it's one system, as though it's one operation. And so integrating those and making sure that that is delivered back to the customer as a complete package is part of that solution as well.
And your career shows a clear preference for open, flexible platforms. How is that mindset influencing your technology roadmap at MBT?
Yeah, so we often use the term plug and play, right? And there's a term in our industry called decoupling, and you really want to be decoupled from your vendors. You want to be sticky with your customers because you don't want them to easily move, but you really want to decouple from your vendors because that gives you the option to pull out any piece of software or any part of your integration platform and shift if you need to. So if you have a vendor that's not performing or your goals have changed, then you can easily change that without having to redo everything else. And so having pieces that are interchangeable, just like parts on a system, you want to be able to remove those and plug those in. And so we look for vendors that have open platforms that are willing to provide those levels of integration so that we can easily maneuver when we need to based on the business changes and dynamics.
Is that something that you had to do based on prior experience with vendors that maybe you weren't able to decouple from very easily?
Yeah, so obviously you learned your lessons, right, over time, and we've definitely learned our share. But I think that's become a more and more of a best practice. I think the technology has also gotten to a place where more vendors are open. They know that they need to be, and they already are providing that. And so it's becoming easier to find those more open solutions. And I think that what people have realized is that's ultimately best for the industry as a whole is to be that way instead of trying to own everything.
Okay. MBT manages over 1,700 trucks and 7,000 trailers. What are the biggest tech challenges that come with managing operations at that scale?
Yeah, well, I could think of two things. One is just the sheer amount of data, right? When you have that many, I mean, we have millions of data points coming at us every single day. And when you have that much data, it can be overwhelming. And so how do you take that data and turn it into information? So that's one challenge. The other is when you have a fleet of that size, you also have a fairly large operations staff to support that. And you think about our almost 2,000 drivers that we have, there's a lot of touch points. And so how do we continue to automate and reduce what we call friction in the process where we don't have to have people moving the data through the system and touching at each of those points? It can become seamless and integrating. So those are two big challenges that we face on a regular basis.
Can you maybe give us an example of maybe a big unexpected challenge that you've encountered since stepping into the CIO role? And how did you turn that into an opportunity?
Yeah, so a big challenge when I came here, what I didn't realize is the number of different, I often say logos that we
Mm.
support. So we have a lot of different business units. Like I mentioned before, we do, warehousing and you have dedicated operations and all those, but we also have a tire company, we have a dealership, we have golf courses, we have the speedway. So I didn't realize coming into this role the diversity of our business and as well as all of the applications that we support.
Mm.
So that was the challenge and the unknown to me when I got here. But what the opportunity has become is recognizing that there is a lot of consistency and the same capabilities are needed across those industries. And so it's given us the opportunity to consolidate technologies and make that an opportunity for us to say, hey, you know what? You you have this business need, and we've already addressed that business need over here with our sister company. why don't we implement that technology? And now we're familiar with it. We have experience with it. So it's helped share that across our family of companies.
How do you balance cutting edge innovation with ensuring reliability for a fleet that is literally constantly in motion?
Yeah. So I think we have to be smart about our the innovation that we the technology that we bring from an innovative standpoint. So I think one of the things that we have to do is make sure that we set our priorities. We're very careful. We often aren't on the bleeding edge of technology, but I consider us a fast follower. So we have to be very careful with what we bring on and that we don't disrupt our operations and disrupt the people within those operations. So setting our priorities and partnering with other vendors, and then also we use a pretty large peer network. I have a lot of CIOs in the transportation space that I reach out to, and I find out how they're doing things and how that's working for them, and whether or not that's something we want to jump into sooner or later. But it's definitely a challenge, and I think that we always need to make sure that we don't disrupt our current operation for the sake of wanting to do something new and exciting. We have to put that first, for sure.
MBT is known for being a leader in fuel efficiency. We talk about it a lot on this podcast. So now that you're here, can you pull back the curtain a little bit on the data, the sensors, and the analytics that make it possible?
Yeah, so we definitely have technology, like we talked about. We talked about the data points and all the data that's coming off of those. So we make sure that we we are evaluating that information again, trying to take that data and turn that into information. So simple things like the speed of the driver, idle time, RPMs, those kind of metrics that we look at. So there's two sides to that. One is providing that information back to the driver real time so that they can be coached and understand that that our fuel economy is important and a big part of our competitive advantage.
Mhm.
And so they can see real time what that looks like and how they're doing in relation to that. We also take that data on the back end and put it in a format that is digestible for our operations staff to then review that with the drivers and make sure that they're being coached properly, but also that they can see how they're doing and even ranked amongst their peers. And so that's pretty exciting. Again, taking that data, turning it into information, and sharing that back. It also gives us, we have other reporting that gives us the ability to look and say, well, how are we doing? Maybe we have certain trucks that are underperforming,
Mm.
and what are the reasons and the other data points that surround that to say, how do we get better, even in a space where we feel the best.
So obviously, fuel economy is built on data, and data is a massive asset for the company. How do you protect that information while still enabling innovation?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and it's tricky, right? Because you want to move fast, you want to be innovative. Technology is changing often, but you got to make sure that you're safe in doing that. And so we have a pretty comprehensive data and security strategy, and policies that protect that. But again, we have to be smart about how we do that and how we go about enabling that with our business partners.
Mhm.
So we continue to look at that. Again, it's about how we prioritize those initiatives that we want to go after, and make sure that we again don't mess up the stuff that we're already doing that we're doing very well.
Okay. AI and predictive analytics are transforming logistics. So, how is MBT using them to stay years ahead in efficiency and operations?
Yeah. So again, we're very careful in that, right? We don't want to be want to be the guinea pigs. We don't want to be the ones who are uh, taking learning the hard lessons, but
Right.
we continue to look at how we implement AI. We have a lot of use cases right now that are very in the forefront of that, and we're talking about how we are able to implement that and again be safe. We're looking at it from a data perspective because once you get your data out there, it's out there and you can't really pull it back. So I have to be careful in how we release that. And then we also have to think about, from a predictive analytics standpoint, we do leverage things within our routing software around weather. We have planning and optimization tools that look at, well, what would this look like if this truck went east or if this truck went west. Um, but some of those can generate false positives, and so again, you have to be very careful with that information. And you still, at this point, you still need to validate and ensure that that is telling you the story that you think it's telling you. So we take a careful approach to that, and I think we'll see more of that as the AI gets better, as we become more comfortable with it, as the data supporting that is more robust. Then I think we'll continue to see that it's changing exponentially, and so it's coming.
Mm.
And I mean, it's already here, but it's coming fast,
Yeah.
even faster.
Yeah, all those changes, right? So, what is the most surprising insight that you've discovered from MVT's fuel data? And maybe was it something that changed how you operate?
Yeah, so, I mean, when I arrived here, I didn't realize and know and understand that MBT is the best when it comes to fuel economy and in the industry. I've been at conferences and I've been wearing this a shirt like this, and people come up to me and say, "How do you guys do it?" So the thought process there is, first off, we can't mess that up.
Yeah.
So everything we do is we look at it from the standpoint of, um, we talked about the people side of it, which is really important, but then also, how do we ensure that we're adding to and making that an even more competitive advantage for us and not detracting from that. So we definitely have to put that at the forefront anytime we release new technology or we think about changes that could impact our drivers and their behavior. Definitely fuel economy is right up there at the top in those discussions.
MVT's culture is people first. You mentioned it earlier. How do you design in cab tech so drivers feel supported and not micromanaged?
Yeah, so I am super passionate about our drivers. I've been in this industry for over 25 years, and they've put food on my table that entire time. So everything we do when it comes to any kind of in-cab technology, we are thinking about how it impacts our drivers. We actually have an entire team called our driver experience team dedicated to our driver tech. And so one of the things that I think we look at and we do a fairly decent job of is ensuring that the information that we provide back to the drivers and we provide to the operations staff is the good information as well as the bad information. So when you think about driver coaching and the things that they're doing, we want to celebrate the wins that they have. And so in our safety software, for example, they they are given a score based on how well they do. And so if you just look at the bad things, they may have 3 heartbreaking events, for example, and you may go in and want to coach them and say, "Look, you need to do better at this."
Hmm.
But the encouraging thing is looking at, well, the 150 other things that they did that were really good. And so when drivers see that and the positive reinforcement is there, I think that they don't feel it's a big brother being micromanaged approach. It's more of hey, a holistic approach and saying, yes, there are some opportunities for improvement, but you're also doing really well at these other things. And please keep doing that.
So, what is one piece of driver facing technology that you're most excited about right now that you think could really improve life on the road?
So, what's interesting is when I saw that question, I thought about, I'm actually more excited about some of the technology that's going to be out of the cab for our drivers, and that's helping them. And so we're working with our maintenance and our local P&D group right now to pilot, and we're looking at some technology that is AI driven to speed up the process when our drivers arrive at our yards. So you think about the gate check-in process,
Mhm.
check-in and check-out, as well as the inspection lanes. So being able to take AI cameras, all of that, put that together, automation, and speed up that process for when the drivers arrive at the end of their day,
Mhm.
they can get home faster. Because we know that when a driver's sitting, they're not getting paid, right? And so they want to be moving, and the faster we can get them in and out, the better their lives are. And that's some pretty cool technology we're looking at right now, and we're about to start piloting, and I'm excited for what that will do for them in their everyday lives.
Communication is vital for driver satisfaction. How is MVT using technology to create better communication between the fleet teams?
Yeah. So our drivers still like to pick up the phone and call. And
Yeah.
so a lot of our initiatives around how do we reduce the number of calls that they need to make, because they're not calling in for the fun of it. They're
Right.
calling in because they have a need. And so we have a lot of initiatives focused around giving drivers the information they need and when they need it, and ensuring that it's there and available to them. And so we look at the calls, the call volume, the types of calls, the reason they're calling in,
Mhm.
and try to reduce that. We also have driver messaging that's within our platform. So drivers who don't want to pick up the phone, or maybe it's not as timely, they can message in, and then they can provide us feedback. And so some of that is through uh, forms that are available to them in through their in-cab tech,
Mhm.
and we're also looking at using AI as well for chatbot technology, so they can ask simple questions and get answers back, and they don't have to pick up the phone and potentially wait, to get somebody who can answer that question.
So, would you say that that's something that a driver would be able to utilize to help them in case they have a tech issue on the road?
Yeah, so we do have a 24/7 help desk that we staff, so drivers can call in. That's also augmented with our in-cab technology partner. So at any point a driver is stuck and they don't know what to do, they can call in and get that assistance. But then also we have the ability to embed training and other information right into their workflow. So for example, if a driver is uh, has a load that they're running that they don't run very often, and it
Mhm.
provides some additional information, and they get stuck right in the middle of their workflow, they can click on that link and go watch that training video and refamiliarize themselves. So we're trying to do as much as we can to get them the information and keep them moving, so that they're not potentially waiting on someone to give them an answer.
As data becomes more integral, how do you ensure transparency and respect for driver privacy?
Yeah, so I think, driver privacy and our staff as well, it's kind of the same. We have a pretty robust and comprehensive data and privacy policies. We're always looking at that, ensuring that um, we talk a lot about data governance and how we ensure that people don't have access to more information than they should, that information is shared appropriately. And so whether that's through encryption, through emailing, anything like that, we take it seriously, and we try to ensure that that information is not out there and shared. We when we do comparisons of drivers, and we actually allow them to see their rankings, how they compare to their peers in the fleet, and also the overall fleet as well as their division. That information is aggregated and anonymized. It's not something where they can see, where everybody else is by name,
Mm.
right? And so definitely we always look at things like that to ensure that we keep their information secure and safe, just as much as I want my information safe with my credit card company and my insurance company, and anyone else. So
Of course. So, cyber attacks, though, are a growing threat for logistics. So, what is your approach to keeping MBT cyber resilient across this connected ecosystem?
yeah, so I think similarly, we continue to invest a lot in our cybersecurity technology. In the 2 years that I've been here, we've had significant investments in that. We are continuing to improve our security posture, and we're in the process of we're on the edge of earning a security certification that goes throughout our entire company, that shows that we're at a certain maturity level with that. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to make those investments, protect that data, and again, ensure that at each of those layers we are as secure as we absolutely can be. Often in our industry, we'll say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that somebody's going to get in. And so the question is how quickly can we get them out,
Mm.
and how much can we mitigate the risk and the access of what they get to? So.
So, can you talk a little bit about how you vet technology partners to ensure that they meet MVT's standards?
Yeah, so any technology partner, any vendor that we bring on, we have a cybersecurity team that looks at that vendor, not only from the software that they provide, but where they fit and rank as a vendor. So there's questionnaires that they're required to fill out. There's diagrams and information that they're required to provide us. But then we also take it even a step further, where we'll test that software in a safer, controlled environment. Whether that's we call it a sandbox or a detonation chamber,
Mhm.
but we can go in and run their software in a safe manner and watch it and see, is it sending information to places where we don't want it to go, or is it doing things that we feel are suspect and we're not comfortable with. So they do go through that process, and if we don't like what we see, then we'll give them the opportunity to either explain or change that, or we'll move on and select a different vendor.
Mm. So, as IT and operational tech converge, what new threats do you see emerging that weren't even on your radar 5 years ago?
Yeah, so I think um, what we see, what's surprising to me is the number of different avenues that the bad actors are coming in at, and how they're accessing our people. So it used to be that you had to kind of protect email, right? And if a driver or sorry, if an operations staff member received an email that they could click on and it could do some bad things. Now with AI, the technology is so good that they can fake conversations, right?
Mm.
And you know they could use my voice to call in and say, "This is Corey. I need you to do this." And so it's scary, the not only the number of ways that they can access and get to our people, but then how good that technology is. And so that's where our training and awareness programs come really into play. And we've invested heavily in that as well, to make sure that people are understanding of what that looks like, and being cautious of what's coming at them, for sure.
And that leads into my next question, which is how do you make sure that drivers and staff who are often the first line when it comes to these kinds of attacks are taking advantage of those trainings?
Yeah, so that's important, right? We roll those out. They're required trainings that we do on a periodic basis, and we ensure that that happens, because you're right, they are the first line of defense. And I often say, I use the analogy of, I can have all the best security in my house, I can have the cameras and all of those things. But if I leave the front door open,
Mhm.
I haven't really done anything. So in addition to the training and awareness programs that we have in place, and the platform that supports all that, um, we have we also test. We send out simulation phishing simulation tests,
Okay.
where we can act like we're bad people, and see who falls for our tricks, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if they do fall for it, then we offer up training again to them, and make sure that they're able to understand the where they went wrong in exposing us. And it's not a form of punishment, but it's just a form of practice, right? Until that becomes a habit, where we're all looking at it. And actually, it's been pretty comical to me that we get a lot of requests, or people saying, "Hey, are you trying to get me on this?" When we're not. And so I would much rather have those conversations, and have people coming to us and questioning legitimate emails versus the other way. So it is having an effect.
It sounds like the training is working, that they're
It is.
accessing, right?
It
Yeah,
is.
and those
Yeah.
practical, experiments are really crucial when it comes to making sure that the training is working, right?
It is, and hopefully they're able to leverage that in their personal lives, and it's protecting them. And so that's what we're all just trying to get better, and be more aware.
So let's think 5 years into the future. What emerging technology do you think will redefine the job that you currently have as CIO in this industry?
Yeah, well, I think we talked about AI, right?
Mm.
And I think we're already seeing that evident now, and I think it'll be even more prevalent 5 years from now. But where the role of the CIO is, um, there's a technical component, but it's shifting to be more of a business leader. And so I have probably more conversations around business and operations than I do around technology. And so I think as AI gets better, the role of the CIO is shifting in becoming more of a business leader
Mhm.
and leveraging the technology and understanding of the technology than it is because the AI will get good enough that it'll it'll be able to help every leader be a technology leader. And so I think you'll see that where as a leader of a finance group or a HR group, I don't need to go to my CIO to figure out how this is going to work. I'll have access to information and tools that'll automatically allow me to get those questions answered or to have those solutions in place. And so I think you're going to see a shift. We're already seeing it. You're going to see it even more so in the coming years.
And especially as vehicles become more automated and data driven, I would imagine that you also see the role of the professional driver evolving as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking for years about autonomous trucks and, the drivers are going to get replaced. Well, it's been 10 years and they haven't been replaced. Definitely there is a more emphasis on our drivers to be tech savvy, right?
Mhm.
We're asking them to enter information into use technology and enter information, interact with tablets in the trucks and all the technology that's in the cab itself. So they are being required to become more tech savvy. It used to be that you just drove the truck, and now you're expected to have a customer service facing component and a technology facing component in all aspects of your delivery. I
Mhm.
think as the autonomy comes with the vehicles, um, I think it'll be similar to what we see today in the airline industry, where pilots um, they basically monitor the cockpit, right? They're in there and they're looking at things and monitoring it, but their physical touching and flying of the plane is most of that is automated today. So I think we'll see more of that and a driver's role being more of an analyst uh, type role,
Mhm.
and they'll be more analytical in thought and not someone who's, just driving a truck.
Yeah.
So
So, for young professionals who are passionate about tech, why should they consider logistics as a career path?
yeah, well, hopefully they're listening to this podcast and they see that every use case that exists out there and has for technology applies in the transportation space. So I worked for a previous transportation company that was headquartered in a city that had a lot of finance and insurance companies in that city. And so whenever we were competing for talent, we have people come in and interview. That's what I was competing against. But it was always really easy to say, hey, when you come to work for us, these are the types of projects that we do. And when you think about all the IoT that's coming off of those trucks, when you talk about the security components, when you talked about having tablets, in the cab of the truck with the drivers, um, warehouse automation, drones, things like that, they get pretty excited pretty quick. And so if that's something that you're interested in and you like change and you like diversity within the technology, I've been in transportation a long time. I don't have a lot of experience with those other spaces, but I would challenge someone to share an industry that has more opportunity for tech than in our space. So.
And finally, what makes you most optimistic about the future, both for MVT and for the broader transportation industry?
Yeah, I think we are at a point in time where the value of transportation and logistics is becoming more and more evident. I think it's we saw some of that during COVID and people couldn't go on vacation and they were locked down but things kept moving, right? The supply chain and we saw some of our best years from an industry perspective. And I think that that's still being seen. Um, and and the technology is and because of that, the technologies is being accepted into the industry more and more. And so that's pretty awesome to me because I believe that technology can be a differentiator in the transportation space, and those companies that leverage technology and do it well have a competitive advantage. And so seeing that the investments are being made in our industry, the technology is catching up. We still do a lot of paper in our industry. And as people become more accepting of the digital formats that are out there and the ability to provide that information digitally,
Mhm.
like it's just again exponentially growing, and that's pretty exciting, which is a little bit scary because it's coming fast,
Yeah.
but also really exciting because it's our time.
Yeah. Well, Corey Goux, the Chief Information Officer for MVT, thank you for sharing your insight with us here on Truck and Talk today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And to our listeners, if you're inspired by the work happening here and you want to join the MVT family, visit m-v-t.com to learn more. I'm Stephanie Valle. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and keep on trucking. That's great.
That's it.
Yeah, that was it. You